Hey, this is JC and welcome to Small Brick City. In this video, we're going to have a look at the 2019 LEGO Expert Modular Building, the Corner Garage, set 10264. This isn't going to be your typical review because you can find really awesome reviews already on YouTube, but rather I'm going to focus on two things. First, I'm going to share how you can detail the interior of the building, specifically the floor tiling. One of the universal complaints of the set is that the interior floors are not detailed. And that's true because in previous Expert Modular buildings, especially the recent ones, the floors were all tiled and there was some design to the tiling. So in this video, I'm going to show you what I did for the interior floors in terms of tiling. I'm also going to highlight different building techniques that I think are new or unique to this set so that you can see how different components and elements are put together so that you can apply them to your own MOCs, or maybe it might help you decide whether or not you want to get to this set. So let's get started. Let's first have a quick overview of this set. It is a corner build, and as you can see, virtually half the build is taken up by the driveway for the gas or petrol pump. On the side over here, there's a workshop garage which a car can fit inside, and it's pretty big. Even a Speed Champion's car can fit inside completely, so that's great. I didn't do any tiling on the outside. Well, I did change some things up in front, which I'll show you in just a bit, and I did add some tiling over here, which I'll give you a better angle in just a bit. Other than that, I've left the entire build exactly as it is. Now, when I place this set into my LEGO city, I am going to make some modifications. So I'm actually going to change the concept of what this build is. Currently, the ground floor is a garage, the second floor is a vet's clinic, and the top floor is an apartment. In placing this set into my LEGO city, I will be changing the concept of this build, not in terms of the physical look of the building, but rather the concept of different businesses in the build, but I'll share that in my next video. In this video, let's focus on the set as it is, as you get it, but I'll show you the improvements and changes I've made in terms of the detailing. Let's start off with the ground floor. Just like any modular building, the roof and levels can separate because they're held together by tiles and jumper plates. And this is the first floor of the building, and let's focus in on some of the interesting build techniques first. And one thing I really like about this set is the various moving parts incorporated into the design. And we'll start off with this tow truck. It's a 1950s style old truck, very retro, but it still can fit into a modern LEGO city. It's just an old truck. So one of the moving parts is this tow arm, and you can actually raise it up and down by turning this gear, or what looks like a tire, and that raises the tow arm due to the crankshaft and the gears, and you can lower it just like that. And what's nice is they've kind of disguised it into the build, and that's similar with all the different moving parts in the set as well. The ground floor is a car workshop or garage, and there are several moving parts as well. For the front entrance to the garage, there's actually a garage style door here, which can be lowered and raised by turning this knob, which is disguised to look like tires on the wall. So all you have to do is turn that. Well, I guess I have to level it down so that it can drop. But once you do that, you can see that can come down and you can make it go up. And the great thing about this mechanism is that there's a roller on this side over here. So it does take up some vertical space, but not a lot. In the traditional style of raising and lowering this sort of garage style roof, you'd always have a track built into the brick along the wall or the roof of the build, and you'd literally just manually pull or lift the garage door so it slides along the groove. And that usually means you need to have an entire roof or grooves on both sides of the wall. Now this allows you to have an opening like that because everything is kind of bunched in at the top over here. So that's really nice. Now with any garage, there is a lift so that you can lift cars up to service or to work on. And these two are the lifts over here. Let me try to get a right angle there so you can see that clearly. Now if you notice, there's this little what looks like a bin on the back, but this actually disguises the lever so that you can actually push or pull it to raise and lower that lift when cars are being worked on. And I really appreciate this feature because many times when there are action or play features built into Lego sets, they aren't disguised. You'd normally see a big red Technic ball connector or joint, or just very obvious levers. So it's really nice that the designer disguised these moving parts or levers or activation devices within normal builds, and that's, I think, the way to go moving forward. That's it for the moving parts. One thing I like to highlight is a building technique, and that's this 45-degree angle that's created due to design of the build. In a previous video, I shared how to create a 45-degree window or door using plate hinges, and you can check out that video in the link in the card above or in the description below. However, this uses a different technique to create that 45-degree angle. It actually uses what to me is a new part. It's a plate, but it's got rounded edges. Let me just zoom in so that you can have a better look at that particular piece. So it is a plate, but it's got rounded edges, which means that you can actually kind of turn and lever them against each other. With a normal plate, because they're straight and they're butting against each other, there's no room for movement. But with these plates, and you can see that several of them all the way down to the bottom, this allows you to create that hinging effect. Now this means that this entire wall is floating above the floor of the build, or on the base plate. It's actually floating above, but it's still very stable because everything is secured down. So that's a pretty interesting technique, and I think it's going to be very useful, because the great thing about this is you do not have to worry about the Lego math that much in terms of creating angles. Anyone who has created angles for build will realize sometimes it's a bit tough to get the exact angles and the exact number of studs needed to create that angle, and so that everything can lock down onto a plate. This, I believe, will make it somewhat easier. Now, I haven't tried building anything else using this technique, but that's what I believe, since it is floating in this way. So that's basically it in terms of the interesting build techniques. Now let me show you some of the interior detailing I did. Let's start off with the outside here. Originally, these tiles over here were light gray. What I did was to simply change them to dark gray to create a driveway effect that goes all the way into the garage and is level with that lift over there. And I filled in some parts with different 1x2 grill pieces as well, because that's pretty realistic for workshop. And that gives some continuity from the outside. It's a small point, but it's something I did. Now, the original build did not have any tiles for the interior, so what I did was to continue using light gray tiling for the rest of the build, and I just filled in the areas, added in some grills underneath the steps just for some visual texture. I had to put a long tile over here, and that's just to fill in the remaining space. But notice how I ensured that all the 2x2 tiles that I put in are in line with each other in different sections of the build. So for example, this section will be in line in terms of, if you look at the 2x2 tiles, they're all laid in one line, so there's no misalignment in that sense. Another thing I did over here is this particular privacy wall here. This wall isn't in the original design, and one complaint people had as well was if you had to enter to get up the steps from the outside, you could kind of get into the garage easily, or someone from the garage could just hop up and go up the stairs, which didn't really make any sense because the second floor is a completely different business from the garage. It's the vet's office. So what I did was to create a 1x3 wall, and I used the same colors, dark green, gray, a bit of maroon and white, to create that wall. And this effectively blocks off this entire gap. So from the side, you can see there's now no way to get through. It's a small point, but I'm glad it's finished this way. And the way I did it was to simply add a wall. What I did was to put in if you look right below, you can see that there's a 1x3 plate. That's actually a 1x2 plate with a 1x3 capping it, as well as the adjacent long plate. And then I built the wall up and I locked it to the top of this piece over here. So this plate, let me just remove this tile. This plate is in the original design, so I built it up to the bottom of the plate so everything locks in place. Then I used a corner tile piece to lock the wall in place, and that's why you can see it's really solid. Even though it's floating off the ground, it is connected to this wall very solid, so it will not move anywhere. And this particular plate was untiled as well, and I just finished it off with tiles because I don't like exposed tiles unless it's part of a roof or it's deliberate in terms of the design. So since this dark green tiles are part of the roof, I'm okay with leaving it with kind of an unfinished look. So that's what I did to create that privacy wall. You can make that addition if you like as well. One last thing I did was to add a bit of a, I won't even call this a railing or a banister, but just some kind of detail and blockage for the stairs. If not, it was just open and people could just fall over and die. So I just added that, and I chose to do it in white and gray just to match the interior design and look of the garage. For the subsequent floors, I used the different colors to match that particular interior design. I did not finish the steps. I could have used 1x3 tiles to cover every single one, but I didn't want to use up all my 1x3 tiles just to cover up the steps for all 3 floors for this particular build. So I've decided to just leave it unfinished and blank. Well, that's basically it. That's what I've done for the first floor. Let me know what you think and if you've done anything different. Let's go on to the second floor. And here's the second floor, the vet's office. I didn't make any structural or layout changes to this floor, but what I did do was to add in the floor tiling, and you can see very distinctive black and white tiling here, and it extends from the waiting area or reception of the vet's office all the way just inside. But this part of the office, I decided just to make it white, so very clinical and clean and sterile. Now, if you're doing this, one thing to note, if you notice the tiles, I'm using 2x2 tiles, but along this 45-degree window, there are triangle tiles, just like this one over here. Now, these tiles in the original design were placed underneath this wall because there wasn't any tiling, but they did need this wall to rest on something. If not, it would just float on the studs of the base plate. So you are given several of these triangle tiles, and they were placed underneath. Well, I took those tiles out because of the way I tiled the floor. There's continuity, and I did not need the triangle tiles underneath this because the 2x2 tiles work well underneath this wall. However, I did use these triangle tiles and I placed them so that they fit along this wall. So that's where you get the nice continuity, just like that. Another thing I had to do is to fill in the space because you don't have the exact dimensions to put 2x2 all the way. So therefore, I'm using 1x2 tiles here as well as here. And the reason is I always want to ensure that as far as possible in the center, I want everything to be in line so everything works well. And you can see that the line ends here as well. So I do like symmetry, and therefore I only keep the odd, what I call the odd tiles, whether it's a 1x1 or 1x2 tiles, all the way to the edges of the wall. And for here, as mentioned, nothing much except white tiling. If you do tiling, what you want to do is put an extra plate underneath each of these furniture pieces. And remember, the reason to do so is because you are adding in one layer of tiles, so you need to raise everything up by one tile or one plate thickness, and therefore you have to add in a plate, in this case a 2x4 here, a 2x4 here. And that's just to raise it up so that it's flush. The same for the sofa sets, as well as even the coffee table and these elements over here, the parrot stand as well as the flower pot. So that's the second floor. Let's move over to the final and third floor. Here's the top floor, and this is the roof of the build. I have not done any detailing here. I think there's not much to detail. As I said, it's a roof. You could add in maybe an air conditioning unit and stuff like that, but I haven't done any of that, and I'll do that by the time I get to my next video when I kind of redo this particular build. But the roof lifts off just like that. That's a pretty nice roof design with many different elements, with reverse plates, curved slope pieces, even a mudguard piece to create a very textured roof. I always find roofs one of the most challenging things to design in Lego buildings, so that's a really nice design. And here we have the second floor, or the third floor. And what I did was I tiled it again, but using different color scheme. This I used dark green and white tiles. And the reason I use this color scheme because it matches the garage or the outside of the ground floor. For the main apartment itself, or maybe the bedroom and kitchen area, I switched it to white and dark red or maroon tiles. Now I wanted to create this buffer strip here, and I used 1x1 tiles in completely different colors, and that's just to create a natural divider, and also so that there's kind of a buffer zone between the two different colored tiles. Notice these white triangle tiles. Unfortunately, those do not come with the set. That's something I had in my parts bin. I had ordered these triangle tiles previously for another project, and I just thought that would be very useful in future, and they have proven to be useful, so I've used them just to finish this off. Now, if you do not have these triangle tiles, you could possibly use a 1x1 tile and maybe round one stud wide tiles, just so that you get close and you cover those exposed studs, and it will give some kind of a nice design, almost like a skirting just at the edges. So it's fine even if you don't have those triangle pieces. Nothing much besides adding in jumper plates as well, so that I can put minifigs, and I did that for both floors. One thing I forgot to mention for the second floor is this banister or railing that I created for the stairs. And for this level, as well as the preceding level, I did use gold round studs and this Noga colored wedge pieces, and that's just to match the overall color scheme of the build, and I think it fits well. I hope you enjoyed this look at the corner garage and the minor improvements that I've made. Let me know if you like the interior detailing that I did, and let me know if you do anything else differently. In my next video, I'm going to show you how I'm going to transform this particular set to have a different function. This might be useful to you if you intend to have the corner garage but do not want to use it as a garage or a car workshop or a gas pump station in your Lego city. Maybe you don't have road base plates or a place where you can have cars turn in to pump up the gas. Maybe you want to place it somewhere else in your city. Well, I'm going to show you how you can easily convert this build to have a different function. It's not too much work, just a bit of work, but stay tuned for that. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.